Hi, I'm Dr. Alex Touchstone. Over these next few modules, I'm going to share with you some very powerful ways in order to save time. You know, it's so important for us to think about this because if we can save just a little bit of time for every restoration, it adds up. And that, of course, leads to more profitability for the practice and I think also lower stress. And so let's look at the implications of saving time for just a moment and think about what we're trying to accomplish. Well, we want to save about 30 minutes per restoration. And in so doing, we also want to avoid any compromise in quality, and certainly we want to improve our overall workflow. And like I said, this is going to improve the overall profit margin for our practice. You know, and if you think about it, 30 minutes per restoration doesn't sound like a whole lot of time, but if we're doing about 20 restorations per month, that equates to 10 hours of scheduling time per month. Now think about that. 10 hours of scheduling time equals 120 hours or 3 weeks out of your life per year. And so that is very important. So we're going to learn how to do that over this module and the next few modules. And so tonight's tip is going to focus on the crystallization of restorations. And, of course, if we think about the impact of this as it relates to PPOs, we know that back in the day, you know, we only reduced our fee by about 10 to 15% whenever we participated in PPOs. And also patients had more discretionary money for health care in the past. In today's world, of course, PPOs require that we reduce our fee by as much as 40%. And we know that patients are less apt or less likely to have discretionary money to apply toward their care. And so this becomes a bigger problem for us and for them. And so again, let's look at some tips on how we can save time. And we know how valuable it is. One way, of course, is to think about how we're going to process or finish the restoration. Many of you are already familiar with the speed crystallization cycle for EMAX. I'm going to focus on that tonight. But I'm also going to share with you a little bit of a variation in the workflow, variation in the finishing technique. Now, on the offhand chance that you're not familiar with the speed crystallization cycle, let me tell you what it is and what you need to do in order to maximize its potential and also how to get it. The first thing you need to know is that it will reduce the firing time for EMAX from about 23 minutes down to about 14 and a half minutes. Now, the other thing that you need to understand is that in order to get the most benefit out of this, you need to make sure that your oven is turned on before the procedure. That's so that the oven can raise up to its idling temperature of 550 centigrade. And that, of course, will prevent you from having to wait for that whenever you do your firing. So again, we want to turn on the oven before we start our procedure. We also need to use the special tray that comes with the oven, and I'm going to show you in a minute that glazing prior to crystallization is optional. There's a way to go about doing this without glazing at all and simply polishing after we crystallize. So we're going to look at that. Now, on the offhand chance, again, that you do not already have this firing program built into your Programmat CS oven, I'd like to recommend that you go to cadcamcan.com. And at that website, we'll go over there now, you're going to find a page called the Ivoclar channel. I want you to select that and then scroll down just a bit and you're going to see a sidebar item called Search for an Ivoclar Vivadent rep near you. You will then enter in your zip code, and whenever you search, you'll be given a listing for the rep in your area. Now, the reason this is important is that rep will need to come into your office and program your Programmat CS oven like the one I have back here. And they'll also, of course, go through how to use the new crystallization cycle. Now, the cost of doing this is about $99, but if you negotiate a little bit, you may be able to work out a deal where they bundle in the crystallization program along with some new blocks. So be sure and call your Ivoclar rep and see what it is that they can do for you. All right, so that's the one thing we need to do. Now, the other thing that we need to do is to think about how we're going to finish the restoration after crystallization. Now, one way to speed the process a little bit is just simply not to apply the glaze at all. In fact, I did a little test to show you that this actually works, and we're going to see that in just a moment. But we're going to crystallize first, and then we're going to polish after we crystallize. So we're going to crystallize and then polish instead of glaze and then crystallize. So let's take a look at the process or the procedure for that. The things that you're going to need are a Robinson number 11 soft bristle brush. You can purchase this through Henry Schein, of course. I like the Robinson brand bristle brushes because the bristles tend to stay on better. They don't fly off the hub quite as readily as some of these off-brand brushes. You'll also need Diasheen Extra Oral Fine polishing paste. A Diasheen Extra Oral Fine, there's your Henry Schein order number. It's 228-9542. The procedure itself looks like this. We're going to heat up the material with our bristle brush, and then we're going to load the brush, as you can see there. And then once we go to the restoration, we need to apply so much pressure that we actually see the bristles displace, as you can see there on the left, and the hub of the bristle brush almost touch the ceramic itself. That lets us know that we have got enough pressure going there. And so those are our procedures that we need to do in order to get a good result. So I've got a bristle brush, as you can see here, and I've got my Diasheen, and we're going to switch over to an example crown that has already been crystallized. But what I want you to notice is that half of this restoration has been polished and half of it has not. And so this side of my restoration has not been polished as of yet, and we can see that it appears to be somewhat dull. In fact, let me raise it up here and we'll get it refocused. There we go. And again, we can see that that is somewhat dull. And what we're going to do is polish that side of the restoration and make it look like this side, just to prove that it can be done and that it works. So again, I've got my Diasheen, I've got my bristle brush. I'm going to load the brush. Heat up the material first, and then swipe the bristles through there. Get it loaded onto the bristle brush. And then we're going to go straight to the crown. And applying lots of pressure. Crown's kind of slippery. Lots of pressure. That's going to get a bit warm and a bit slippery. But again, I'm applying so much pressure that I can almost see that the hub of the bristle brush touches the ceramic itself. Now ordinarily, of course, I would wash this off real good, and it is water soluble, so it is easy to wash. But for the sake of this evening's demonstration, let's just go back over to our camera and see if I can find it here. There we go. And granted, that's a little bit dirty, as you can see, but you can appreciate that it is very shiny. And I can do that very quickly. So if you're uncomfortable with applying the glaze, or if you simply don't want to do it, you can certainly go ahead and crystallize first and then glaze later. And then polish later. I've done that twice tonight. So we can crystallize and then polish rather than apply glaze and crystallize. All right, so that's tip number one. The next module, I'll show you another tip that involves changing the workflow as it relates to anesthesia and scanning. And we'll see if that doesn't save us a little more time still. But in this particular section, we've saved about, probably 10 minutes. So we're already 1/3 the way there. So hang in there with me, and we'll get to that 30-minute point with just a couple more ideas. Thanks.